Yeah, hi guys, this is Vishal here from Drapcode. So in this video, we will understand how to fetch the details of a single record or single collection item in Xano. So previously we have seen videos where we have fetched the data to display a list of data in a data table. Then we have created new records which goes directly to Xano. So here we are using Drapcode as a 100% front-end builder where you are integrating with Xano and fetching and pushing and pulling all the data through REST APIs on Xano. So in this video, we will see how to bring the data of a particular record and display on the UI. So here we have a list page. All this data is coming from Xano. So this is a Xano collection which we have, which is a person, and we have connected this through an external API, and we are displaying the data on data table. So if I reload the page, it will make a fresh call and bring whatever is there. So it's a real-time integration. There is nothing which is getting stored or persisted at Drapcode end. Now let's say I want to create a list page where I want to display the data or the details of this particular person. Let's say the person has 15 fields or 20 fields, right? And I may not be displaying all of them in the data table. So I want to create a details page where I want to display the data or all the data of that particular person, maybe in some profile format or something. Okay, so let's add one more field. So let's say a text field, which is, let's say, city. Okay, I'll just save. Okay, let's say New York. London. Tokyo. Okay, so we've added these fields. Now I want to display any particular person details on a details page. Let's see how that can be done. So I'll go to my pages and let's create a new page called person details. Okay, person details. I don't want to create the page from scratch, so I'll just choose, let's say, person create page and just create it. So the details page is here. I'll just remove this collection form because I do not need it. Let's go and let's use some pre-built layout to display in the form of a profile. So okay, so this is a profile layout. Let's go and just drag and drop and use it. So let's say this is the person. Now I want to create a nice looking person details page and fetch the data from Xano in real time, and let's see how this can be done. So here let's add one more button, which is person details page. So I'll go to my list page. So I'll drop a component. So let's say link component because we are just linking to a new page, and I'll say go to the person details page. In the path field, I'll choose parent component and the ID because we will be passing to the details page where we say, okay, for this particular ID, fetch the data. We'll see what that ID is and how that works. We'll see a bit later. Okay, so here it is. I'll say view. I'll remove these classes and let's say add some other bootstrap classes, btn sm, which is a button small, and btn warning. Okay, so this is a view details of the person. It will take to the details which we have just created. Now, since we want to use the data of a particular collection, which will come from some external API or some REST API, let's see how that can be done. So we'll say bind collection person. So we are saying on this details page, we will be showing the data of person, and which by default comes from a collection. But here we are not storing anything in the collection. We are calling everything from Xano, a direct API integration. So we'll say external API. Now it is asking me that which external API. So we have not yet created an external API which fetches the data of the person. So let's first go and create that external API. We'll come back here and bind that external API. So I'll go to my external APIs and then open it. So external API is the module which basically you use to fetch data from some other data source and push the data. So basically all the REST calls you make it through an external API module. So we have two APIs created. One is to fetch all the data, to fetch the list of person, and second is to create a new person on Xano. Now we want to fetch data of a single record. So I'll say fetch individual person details. Okay, so now let's see which Xano API is needed for this particular scenario. So we have this person table, this is the person, this is the default API. Okay, so we will be needing this one, person get person record. So this is something which helps you to get a individual record. So all these API we have marked as authenticated. So for now, let's keep this one as open. You can also mark it as authenticated, send the access token in the header as bearer and then token. We have already covered it in different tutorials. So for now, we'll just skip it. So I'll choose copy link. I'll come back to Drapcode. Okay, and I'll say paste. So now there is a catch. So here it is expecting this person ID as a dynamic parameter because people may be fetching different users. So how do the Xano know that which particular person you want to fetch? So if I give person ID 1, it will give 1 record. If I say 2, it will give second record, 3, and so on, right? So we need to pass these parameters dynamically. So how you pass dynamic parameters in Drapcode is you give them under double curly braces. So I'll say this is the variable which will be we have to pass to Xano. Now you need to define the value, that from where this value will come. So since we have binded the person collection to the person details page, we'll say the data will come from a non-persistent collection which is of type person and it has several fields. So while fetching the data, we have binded the ID. Okay, so if let me show it to you, that what we have done while fetching the data and how this ID is coming. Okay, so we'll say fetch data and I'll just edit this. So this is the REST API which we have created to fetch the list of person, and that person is getting displayed, and each record has an ID which is getting binded to uniquely identified column which is ID, and the value is ID, which is the data coming from Xano. So this is the format of data which is coming from Xano. It's ID, created at, full name, date of birth, gender, email. So this is the ID. So we will passing this ID with person ID in the Xano API, and it will give the detail of this person. If we pass 3, it will give the data of this person, right? So this is how basically a single record fetch API works in Xano. Now we want to pass this API dynamically because whatever person you will click, it should fetch you the data of that particular person. So I'll come back here. So this is how we are fetching the list of records. Now I'll go back to my previous API which we are creating. So I'll say from that particular list of collection, choose the ID, wrap it in a name person ID, and send here in Xano as a dynamic parameter in the URL, or this is called path parameter, right? You can give whatever name you want to choose. Okay, but we'll just leave it as person ID. Okay, and you just need to make sure that whatever name you give here should exactly match the name which you are giving here to this particular ID. Okay, so now this will make a call and fetch the data. Now I want to map the data. Now I'll say collection mapping without persisting record in database. So what we are saying, make a call, whatever the data is coming, just map it to a collection schema, but don't store it in the database. So these are the two settings which you use. This is when you want to fetch something and store in local Drapcode collection, and this is when you don't want to store it, but you still bind it to a schema or to a collection so that you know that okay, which field you want to use on a details page or a table to display what particular value. Otherwise you will have to play with all JSON field, which is a bit complex as compared to when you already have a predefined fields done. Okay, so I'll say map to collection item path, so it is coming at root, so you don't need to worry about anything. So JSON path is something when the data is coming under some variable. Here everything is coming at first level itself, so you don't have to pass anything. Okay, now I'll say whatever data is coming, ID is ID. Okay, full name is coming under full name, email is coming under email address, date of birth is coming under date of birth, and gender is coming under gender. This is fine, and I'll just save setting. So what we have done, we have created a sample API call which is fetching the data of an individual record and just passing it to the front end and wrapping it to a collection. So I'll go to my details page, which was person details page, and here we want to make this API call and display all this data. What we'll do, we'll do the settings which we were doing previously. So in the settings, I'll say bind it to a collection that this page takes a person object, and that data is coming from an external API, and that external API is fetch individual person details. Okay, so this is the API, and that's all. I'll just update it. So it's updated. Let's reload the page. Why we want to reload? Because we want to access all the person fields so that we can display the dynamic records. Okay, so instead of heading John Doe, I say get text from person. So why we are seeing this variable or this property? Because now this particular page understands that the person data will be coming and it has access to all the fields. So that's why we are mapping the collection instead getting the data directly from JSON, which is a bit different. So I'll say full name. So display full name here, and let's say here also I'll say get text from person, which is full name. Let's display email here. Let's say get text from person, email, phone number we don't have, leave it move, or let's say change it to date of birth. I'll say date of birth, get data from person, date of birth. What is the other field? I think gender. So I'll say gender. Okay, so we have just bind couple of fields and we'll just leave everything as it is. So now this is done. So this is a person profile which will display the dynamic data. Now we have already mapped it to a list page. We have already given the ID. So let's go and see how this looks like now. So here we'll see a view button which will take us to the person details page with the ID of that particular record, and we should be able to fetch or display data directly. Okay, so let's go with person 2. So I click 2. So if you see in the URL, it is showing person details person 2, and this 2 is coming from the ID which is coming from Xano. So here if you see, we have shown this records ID 1, 2, 3. So as of now it is fetching this particular person records, and it is using this particular API which is get person record, binding the data to a person collection in Drapcode and displaying everything. So this is it. Now if I go back and let's try some other person, let's say person 6. So here you see in the URL it is showing 6. Okay, so it is showing the person 6. If I go back and try some other person, it will show the data, and all the data is coming in the real time from Xano. So if you go to Drapcode collection, if I try to reload, you see nothing exists here, right? So we are not persisting anything. Everything is coming from Xano and it is getting displayed. So let's say person 4, just view. So now it is showing the data of user 4. So we have basically covered the fetching of list items, fetching of individual record, and creation of record in Xano. So we'll continue to make much more educational video where we cover a lot of other things about Xano and other Drapcode things. See you again in the next video. Bye bye.